Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Nora Maetzener, and I have worked on the Laidlaw project, The Critical Intersection of Higher Education in Prison, with my faculty mentor, Professor Hilary Binda. You are all receiving information sheets on the Tufts University Prison Initiative of Tufts College, which is of Tisch College, sorry, which Professor Binda is the founder and director of. So there are various programs that exist underneath the umbrella of TUPIT. The first of these programs is the Tufts University Prison Initiative degree program at Massachusetts Correctional Institution in Concord. 23 incarcerated men at this facility are enrolled in various college classes in different disciplines that are taught at the facility by Tufts University faculty professors. Some of these classes include English and Philosophy, Health and Human Rights, Introduction to Qualitative Reasoning, Introduction to Quantitative Reasoning, and an Ethics Bowl. As part of my work as a Laidlaw Fellow, I have served as a teaching assistant for this class over the summer, and I will do so again in the upcoming spring semester. Another really important project that exists underneath the TUPIT umbrella is the Inside Out Prison Exchange Program. Through Inside Out, 10 non-incarcerated or outside students go and take a class at a correctional facility alongside 10 incarcerated or inside students. So this is a picture of the first Inside Out class, and Hilary Binda is standing in the middle. I'm currently enrolled in taking this course at the only maximum security prison in Massachusetts, Susan Baranowski. This class is called Mass Incarceration and the Literature of Confinement. In addition to being one of the only opportunities for the inside students to gain access to the world that exists beyond the walls of the prison, at the maximum security prison, it's actually serving a dual purpose and a really historical one. So at this facility, incarcerated students are split into either the north or the south side, depending on presumed gang affiliations. The two sides are never allowed to come into contact with one another due to fear of violence. However, in our Inside Out class, the two sides, the north and the south, or the green and the gray, are actually coming together to learn with, alongside, and from one another. So as you can see, this is a really historical moment for prison education and prison reform at large. Another really important part of my work as a Laidlaw Fellow and a TUPIT Fellow has been through research. So the first TUPIT study, titled You're Almost in This Place That Doesn't Exist, The Impact of College in Prison as Understood by Formerly Incarcerated Students from the Northeast United States, has collected qualitative data from formerly incarcerated students who participated in college and prison programs. This project is currently in the process of being published. The second study is on the longitudinal impact of the TUPIT degree program at Concord. So through pre, during, and post-assessment, we will assess how people understand their experience in the TUPIT program. Also, people who are released either during or after their participation in the TUPIT degree program will have their recidivism rates monitored with permission and compared to a control group of people who did not participate in college and prison programs. So as you can see on the information sheet that you received, a really critical study published by the RAND Corporation reveals the significant impact of participating in college and prison on recidivism rates. So recidivism means when you're released from a prison, whether or not you are reincarcerated. And recidivism rates are very, very high, especially for people who don't participate in any educational programming, but they can be reduced significantly by any participation in educational programming, but especially higher education, so college or university degrees. Another part of TUPIT has been raising awareness in the Tufts community about these issues. One of the ways that we do this is through holding and organizing annual symposiums. The inaugural TUPIT Symposium took place in February 2018 on the Tufts Medford and the Tufts Medical School campus. It was titled The Responsibility of Engagement, Prison and Education. The keynote speaker was Andrea James, who is the founder of a National Coalition for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, as well as Families for Justice's Healing. The second ever TUPIT Symposium took place earlier this month. It was a 2-day event that happened here on the Tufts Medford campus, as well as at the Concord facility. This was titled Engaging Justice, Inside and Outside Prison. The keynote speaker for this was Dr. Stanley Andrees, who's pictured here and there by the microphone as well. Also, all of the panelists at both the inaugural and at the second Tuppet Symposium are formerly incarcerated people. This highlights Tuppet's mission to really make Tufts a platform for people who don't otherwise have a chance to have their voices and opinions be heard, and actually are the ones who have the most valuable insight into prison education and prison reform. Another way that we are raising awareness in the Tufts community about these issues is through the Tufts Pathways program. So Tuppet is working very closely with Tufts Human Resources to provide a concrete pathway for people who are recently released from prison to receive a job at Tufts. When you receive a job at Tufts, you're not only receiving a stable employment, which is really hard when you're released from prison, but you also have the benefit of enrolling and taking Tufts college classes for free, so thereby allowing them to pursue their education further. This also highlights Tuppet's goal to make Tufts a sound and safe space where the formerly incarcerated community feels comfortable. So with that, I would like to read one of the letters written by one of the incarcerated students at Concord. A good education is useless. What good is an associate's degree to a convicted murderer? I know people that have busted their asses for years in college and still have absolutely nothing to show for it. After 16 years in prison, that's time that I can't afford to waste on a long shot that may not bear any fruit. These are the things that I told myself when I heard that Concord was offering another college program. It was cliche to hear people always say how important a good education was. That always fell on deaf ears to people like me because no one in any of the households in my neighborhood was a product of a good education. I wish I could give you a good example of one Black male role model in my life, but lying has never been one of my strong suits. All of my role models were career criminals, so a life of crime was written in stone for me. We're constantly encouraged to break that cycle, but the people usually insisting that we rise above our circumstances underestimate the obstacles that we are faced with on a daily basis. Most of us suffer greatly from low self-esteem, but we would die before we swallowed our pride and ever admit it. I'm always asking myself these self-defeating questions like, what qualifies me to be that individual that troubled young men would look up to? How could I ever become that role model? And even if I was able to acquire a good education, the odds are stacked heavily against me to succeed. It's impossible to build a better life for myself after going through all of this. Where I'm from, we're taught to believe at a very young age to believe in everything under the sun except ourselves. So I guess that's why it was so hard for me to believe that achieving my associate's and bachelor's degree was ever possible. I reluctantly enrolled in the Tufts program here at MCI Concord, and my life hasn't been the same since. I still beat myself up mentally, knowing how close I came to passing up on the opportunity to be part of this experience. It definitely wouldn't be the first time that my ignorance influenced a poor decision. 7 months into this program, I'm now immersed in my education. The possibilities that I see for myself are no longer far-fetched because people like Loho have encouraged me to believe in my capabilities. Cameron Wayne has taught us how to compound interest. So now all I can think of are the better life decisions that I have to make in order to assure a better life for myself. Those better decisions are the small investments in myself that I now consider the compound interest towards my life savings. For years, I've let the fear of failure and pessimism deter me from my growth. Hillary has made me recognize that I have way more to offer the world than I give myself credit for. I view education differently now. I've always been a comic book enthusiast, so I imagine the journey from my associate's degree being equivalent to when Thanos began his quest to accumulate all 6 Infinity Stones. Life without a good education would be like me possessing the Infinity Gauntlet with no stones. What sense does that make? The only difference between me and Thanos is what I plan to do with the power once I finally possess it. I've had labels like murderer, felon, super predator, drug dealer, and gang member placed on me since I've come through these doors, and I can remember a time when I embodied every single one of those labels. I actually used to be proud of most of them. The most recent label I've acquired has become my favorite, though. Tufts University Bunker Hill student. I struggle with the idea of me being able to make a difference in this world, but only up until I enrolled into this program. My professors have highlighted my potential. My tutors have pushed me to want more for myself, and my classmates have been my foundation during my moments of weakness. What more can I ask for? I'm blessed in more ways than one because opportunities like this in prison are far and few. My classmates and I are passionate about helping repair our communities that we all participated in destroying. Peace be upon you, Quintel. I would like to thank the Laidlaw Foundation and Professor Hilary Binda for all of the incredible work that she's done and for allowing me to participate in this education and in this research. Thank you.
So what benefits do you see with this program for people while they're still incarcerated and not necessarily once they get out?
So one of the most important benefits that we've seen is actually change in the prison culture. So one example is as part of the educational programming at Concord, they're taught to participate in an ethics bowl. So that's like a philosophical debate about moral issues. The day after completing the ethics bowl, when I came into like TA, the student came up to me and he was like, guess what I did this weekend? I was like, I don't know, like, what did you do? And he was like, well, we were in the yard and we were having a discussion about whether or not it's okay for anyone to use the N-word. And instead of having a fight, we set up our own ethics bowl and discussed it that way. So I think that's a really powerful example. Yeah.
I have a similar question about something you said at the beginning about Susan Baranowski about the green and the gray being combined. Have you, as a student in there, seen any effects? Is that a dynamic that's at play, and how is the class helping, do you think?
I was actually really surprised the first time we went in. They had already met, like for interviewing, they have to interview to be part of the program. And I guess like by waiting for their interviews, they had like spoken to one another and gotten to know one another, and they all were like giving each other high fives and hugs. And like seeing that, like, and juxtaposing that with the idea of like, oh, like the Bloods and the Crips and or like the Bloods and the Kings or whatever, like their presumed gang affiliations are, and like how they can't be in the same room at any point, and then seeing them hug each other and like call each other brother has just been like amazing.
There been any cost benefit analysis on this? I mean, you've described some very specific outcomes that, even stopping a fight in a prison could be seen as quite a good benefit. But, seeing the report on recidivism and, the long-term costs that costs society, it seems like this would be a very inexpensive way to decrease
Definitely.
that. So has there been any analysis at a deeper level?
Yeah, I'm not like confident in the exact numbers, but I think holding someone in jail or in prison costs about $60,000 a year per person. And like Tufts costs a little bit more than that, and they are not paying that full Tufts tuition. So I think if you multiply that with the number of people who are currently incarcerated across the United States, it's like really awful.
What percentage of the general prison population have access to this program, and how does that plan to grow or change?
Unfortunately, it's a really, really small percentage right now. So at Susan Baranowski, which, do you know how many people are incarcerated there? 1,200 people are incarcerated there right now. Only 10 or 11 people have access to the Inside Out program right now, which is very disheartening. At MCI Concord, the class of 23 people, there's also an Emerson College program. So there are 2 college programs at Concord right now. But that's still a very, very, very small fraction of the people and of the prison population who have access. So we're trying to grow that. One obstacle is that in order to participate in the college program, you have to receive your high set or your like GED. So that's like the first step that they have to have before they can enroll in the college programming. Thank you so much.